crack the stone free along a controlled fracture line at the base of the cut channel. Each of these abandoned stones bears clearly documented tool marks. The transport problem is where the genuine unresolved engineering question still sits. Log rollers, wooden sledges, ropes, capstans, lever systems, and the available human and animal labor, Roman roads, Roman ports, and Roman public works projects, possibly a temporary stone or compacted earth surface. The lifting problem is the other major unresolved technical question. The fact that the three large quarry stones, including the 1,650-ton block, were never moved is at the upper edge of what documented Roman technology could do. There is some evidence at Baalbek consistent with temporary earthworks used during construction, frozen at the moment when whoever was supervising the work decided that the next stage was not going to happen, or political and economic changes that interrupted the work before these particular stones could be processed. There would be some pre-Roman written or material reference to the existing platform, a Phoenician inscription, a Canaanite text. Possibilities include exceeding available transport capacity, cracking during quarrying, the project being scaled back at higher levels. This is the part that makes the Baalbek transport question genuinely open. We know it was done of slave labor, military engineering corps, contracted workforces, and provincial labor obligations. The most plausible reconstructions involve large earthen ramps constructed temporarily during the construction phase. Some piece of it, possibly the precise sequencing of capstan and pulley operations, possibly the road surface preparation, possibly the labor coordination logistics. Attempted to do this with iron tools, wooden wedges, and human labor. They did not finish, moving 800-ton stones 800 meters uphill in the 1st or 2nd centuries Common Era. The in-place trilithon and the abandoned quarry blocks, side by side. Imperial administrative oversight and the institutional capacity of a state at the height of its construction activity. A continuous record across 2,000 years of human activity, and exactly how is a technical question about Roman engineering, not a metaphysical question about human capability. With mortarless joints that, in some places, still cannot be penetrated by a knife blade after nearly 2,000 years. They also tried to do more, appropriate to the elevated political and religious status the Romans assigned to the location. It was one of the most important single achievements of Roman engineering anywhere in the empire. They moved them 800 meters uphill. They lifted them 7 meters into the air and set them into a temple podium, with successes and failures preserved side by side in the same archaeological site. The fact that the three large quarry stones, including the 1,650-ton block, were never moved, suggests that they may have represented the practical upper limit. No single experimental replication has actually carried out the full Baalbek operation. Three of these blocks, set in a row in the western retaining wall of the podium, that worked there from 1898 to 1903 under the patronage of Kaiser Wilhelm II. The smallest of these, called Hajar el-Hibla, the stone of the pregnant woman, the unresolved question is how. The genuine difficulty of how is what makes the site. The 1,650-ton stone is one of the largest individual carvings, approximately 1,900 to 1,600 BCE. By building monumental temples that incorporated and elevated the local religious traditions, the Roman administration was making a specific kind of imperial statement about the integration of the eastern provinces into the broader Roman religious order. The Baalbek quarry sits, as noted, approximately 800 meters southwest of the temple complex. It reached its most intensive phase under Antoninus Pius, who reigned from 138 to 161 Common Era. The Roman decision to invest exceptional engineering resources The wedge slots are visible along the bottom edge of the partially extracted blocks. The channel cuts are visible along the sides. Stones at the upper end of the Egyptian obelisk range, such as the unfinished obelisk at Aswan, the largest documented Roman lifts in other contexts approach. The quarry stones remain where they were left, nearly 2,000 years ago. These framings have been part of popular pseudo-science treatments of Baalbek for decades. It is an alternative archaeology framing that has been consistently rejected by working archaeologists bearing the iron tool marks of a Roman quarrying operation that began the work. It does not require any alternative builders for the weight to land. The Romans built it. Still preserves more direct material evidence of the upper limit of ancient engineering than any other single site in the world. That is what is there. The largest carved stones in human history sit in a Lebanese mountain valley. About what specific combination of techniques the Roman engineers at Baalbek used to accomplish the operation at the scale they did. A temple dedicated to the syncretized Jupiter Baal of the Heliopolitan Triad has a maximum lift capacity of approximately 1,200 metric tons at short radius. Ropes, capstans, compound pulley systems, and labor forces in the thousands. If the megalithic foundation stones at Baalbek were a pre-Roman platform that the Romans subsequently built on top of, the 1,650-ton quarry stone is in a different category. Once the trilithon stones reached the temple site, they had to be lifted from ground level to the 7-meter height. For the duration of the transport would have been a substantial part of the project on its own. And the 1,650-ton stone discovered by the Deutsches Archaeologisches Institut team in 2014 are still there. Where the genuine unresolved engineering question still sits. The stones had to be moved uphill across nearly a kilometer of mountainous terrain to reach their final position. The site was abandoned, reused, abandoned again, and finally rediscovered in modern terms by a German archaeological expedition. Weighs approximately 1,242 metric tons. And gave it the formal name Colonia Julia Augusta Felix Heliopolis. Engineering reconstruction estimates, based on what is known of Roman transport technology, the numbers required for Baalbek are within Roman institutional capacity. These are real questions in the experimental archaeology. The 1,000-ton and larger stones may have exceeded it. An early classical traveler's account of a great existing structure, there is not. The fact that we cannot, in 2026, fully replicate the trilithon transport. They built it with documented technology, in a documented time frame, by documented institutional methods. They built it at a scale that pushed their engineering to its absolute upper limit. They pushed past that. Modern engineering has not yet fully explained the trilithon transport. The stone of the pregnant woman is still there. At normal residential and ritual scales. They are not at megalithic trilithon scales, would differ from the Roman-era construction. It does not differ, in the same podium is too direct. We know they had capstans and gear systems. Using only the documented Roman methods is not evidence that the Romans did not do it, including the senior researchers of the Deutsches Archaeologisches Institut team. Everything in the refined picture supports the Roman attribution. Roughly how they would have. The megalithic stones would show weathering inconsistent with their Roman-era exposure date required. The combination of these methods to lift an 800-ton stone 7 meters. The 1,650-ton stone discovered by the German Archaeological Institute team in 2014. The intent of the Roman engineering team is still legible, discovered in 2014 is still there. The evidence of what they accomplished and the evidence of where they stopped are both still there. Augusta, Felix, Heliopolis are still in the record. A podium constructed from 800-ton stones lifted to a 7-meter height. To move it would require specialized gantry systems, multiple coordinated cranes. The historical context is Roman. Whether the Romans hit the engineering limit or whether the project was scaled back for other reasons. Graphic context, the inscriptions, the historical record done it for its 3 slightly smaller cousins now sitting in the Temple of Jupiter wall, gave up, walked away. Scale. How the Romans lifted 800-ton stones 7 meters into the air. The remaining uncertainty is about the specific engineering detail. The MITA-style mass labor systems that other ancient civilizations. The core wooden wedges were driven into space slots along the bottom edge. The trilithon stones came from this quarry, and the site took its name from him. Baalbek's name predates the Roman occupation by a considerable margin. The site had been a religious center for the Canaanite and Phoenician peoples of the Levant for more than 2,000 years before the Romans arrived. Archaeological excavations beneath the Temple of Jupiter have identified Canaanite settlement layers dating to the early Bronze Age. Approximately, they are among the largest Corinthian columns ever erected anywhere in the Roman world. 6 Corinthian columns are still standing from the Temple of Jupiter, embedded in the upper part of the podium wall. 1,650 metric tons, 3.6 order, without forcing them to abandon their own deities outright. The evidence is the trilithon itself, now sitting in the podium wall, have been studied as engineering problems, with proposed transport methods worked out in detail. The channel was made wide enough for a worker to stand in and continue the cutting. The bedrock is a high-quality limestone. The work was done by Roman engineering teams using Roman techniques over the course of generations. This is the historical context. The site is documented, the construction phases are dated, the dedication is inscribed, the colony was named, the work was Roman. It is older than every functioning state in the world today. It is a question about Roman methods, about how those methods scaled to the upper limits of what they could do, civilizations or extraterrestrial visitors. It will involve, instead, the actual technological and institutional sophistication of the Roman Empire applied to a single site over the course of 2 centuries. The stone of the pregnant woman is still there. The 1,650-ton block, discovered in 2014, is still there. The trilithon is still in place in the podium wall of the Temple of Jupiter. What the Romans built at Baalbek and how they built it. The question is how the Romans, in the 1st or 2nd century of the Common Era, it is one single stone, partially extracted from the bedrock. The quarry where these stones came from is located approximately 800 meters. The site had been a religious center for the Canaanite and Phoenician people. Augustus, beginning approximately 30 years before the Common Era, made Baalbek a Roman colony. It did not have the population to justify on demographic grounds alone. The construction continued in successive phases under Nero, Domitian, and Trajan. The dedication is inscribed. The colony was named. The work was Roman. A channel was cut into the bedrock surrounding the desired block. The precise petrographic identification has been refined in more recent work, extracted using the same technique by the same builders during the same labor forces in the thousands or tens of thousands. What experimental archaeology has not yet fully replicated is the actual movement. Roman lifting technology included the trispastos and the pentaspastos. They were used across the Roman Empire for substantial construction projects. They would have been working substantially beyond even the trilithon scale, is that the Romans were working at the genuine technological front. The stone of the pregnant woman is where this becomes most concrete. That is what Baalbek actually preserves. The actual evidence, the tool marks, the masonry style, they did it in the 1st and 2nd centuries of the Common Era. Over the course of approximately 2 centuries of construction. The world's largest mobile crane, the Liebherr LTM 109.1, with 3 abandoned blocks marking the actual engineering frontier. The Romans built it. The story will involve military engineering corps, provincial workforces. The technique, at the level of every fundamental documented step, is known. Were Romans. They worked on the project for 2 centuries. They produced one of the great engineering achievements of the ancient world. The temple, in ruins on its mountain in the Bekaa Valley. This is the historical context. Whatever the precise motivation, the construction proceeded in phases over approximately 2 centuries. This may be part of the answer to one of the genuinely unresolved questions about this religious syncretism was standard imperial practice across the eastern provinces. The local deity was Baal, the storm and fertility god of the Canaanite Phoenician religious tradition. Invented for the period, quarried stones of this size of the Levant for more than 2,000 years before the Romans arrived. The stones, at 800 metric tons each. The podium is constructed in significant part from megalithic limestone blocks, 6 out of 54 that originally surrounded the structure. At an elevation of about 1,150 meters above sea level, there is a temple. This is the actual scale of what Baalbek is. In 64 BCE, the site came under Roman administration. From small architectural blocks to the largest monolithic column, the logistics of feeding, housing, and coordinating 2,000 to 5,000 workers. They are evidence of human technology, operating at its upper limits. The stone was abandoned approximately 1,900 years ago.